Kyle Orvis, your favorite tinfoil realist, not theorist. I got a legend here with me. One of two of the only people in this entire crypto space that I've actually got to meet. Kind of bring this real world or bring this digital world into the real world. I got to meet up with Miner here last week. Dude, what a day. I keep telling everybody about it. I had such an awesome time with you and Naldo. Got absolutely blitzed.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot. It was a one of the heavier days for me on that trip, but definitely the best day by far.
Yeah, this is fun. So like this is fun for me because you're not doxxed to anybody. I know you do have plans on doxing at some point because we were having a discussion about doing this YouTube stuff.
Right. Yeah. Not doxed. Not that I like hide from people. Like I've met up with you. I've met up with some guys in NFTNYC. I don't mind people knowing my face. It'll happen. It'll happen for sure. Just with time. Plus, I gotta flex these dragons. Like that's the wherever I can.
Yeah, the dragons are fucking wicked. And then you guys also killed it with the dinosaurs. We'll get into all of this in a few minutes here. But I want to start with learning about Miner. Let's get into your background. Let's before we get into the crypto journey, let's just talk about a little bit about your come up. Where are you from? What's the family situation like? What's the come up for Miner?
So I was born and raised outside of Philadelphia in the suburbs. My got my little immediate family. They're all crypto nuts as well, which is kind of fun. Initially, my life trajectory was medical school, and I then found crypto and said, "Fuck that! I'm gonna do this instead." Did a complete 180, landed a job in the space within a year of changing that, and have just kind of been like, professionally in the space for about a year now. But getting there was, been in crypto since fucking Bitcoin was like what $400 I think when I got in the space. Just fucking around on different like Crash and different illegal sites in the U.S. All the fun degenerate stuff that it started out as. Um, yeah, that's my little background.
So let's go back to those days. We're playing around on these fun little websites. Um, are you just seeing it as like a payment option, and that's what's kind of like making you go, "Oh, what is this?" Or are people kind of actively talking about paying with this Bitcoin? Like, how are you kind of introduced to Bitcoin?
So one of my best friends at the time, I don't know if I should say this, but regardless, so he introduced me to Bitcoin because weed was too expensive where we lived, and he found a way to get cheaper weed, and that perked my ears because I was like, oh, a use case. It's not just some magic internet money. Like people are going to actually pay each other with it. So that's what sparked my interest, not the drug side of it, but the fact that it was becoming the means of exchange. Um, and that's really what it was for me. Is I couldn't use U.S. dollars like PayPal on these gambling sites. They would only take Bitcoin. So it was just, yeah, really, really serving the purpose for what I think people wanted it to do.
You know what's funny when I think back on this now is had had I been introduced to drugs a little bit earlier in my life, oddly enough, uh, I think that there would have been a benefit there to me because when I first heard about Bitcoin, uh, I think it was like $3 to $5 at the time, and
Oh wow.
and like these guys in my broadcast school were buying drugs with it. So like right then, like it already had a use case for it. Um, but I hadn't kind of dove down the rabbit hole yet of what is money or kind of anything yet. I was very young and naive at that point in life. Um, but yeah, that's really interesting. Like for you, seeing a use case going like, okay, that makes sense. Now it's time.
You're right. And then it really became time for like just tracking it. Like I wasn't investing. Like I wouldn't obviously wasn't hodling like I'm broke now. You know, if just because we were in the space back then doesn't mean we were smart enough to keep all our coins.
Mm.
That's certainly the case for me. I really didn't start expanding out of Bitcoin until XRP was really like the first other potential use case I saw with it, which was like replacing Swift as they were trying to do.
Mm.
And then I was like, oh, maybe there are other coins out there that are doing things. And I don't know the last time I touched Bitcoin since, right? I feel like we all go through those phases of like you start with it and you hate it, and then you eventually come back around. I'm starting to come back around to it, but that's just me.
On this topic, I've actually got to ask you because I respect the hell out of you. I think you're one of the more knowledgeable minds in this space. I got to know your thoughts on the ETH merge date announcement.
I'm pretty excited. I was watching some of those like I don't know how to pronounce that testnet, so I'm not even gonna try. Some of those like reorgs that people were watching on the testnet merge.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited. I think that it's going to be a big make or break moment. Like if it is successful, we are going to all do very well, and there could potentially be a big run up. I don't like to talk price, but if it fails, I think it drags down a lot of people with it. That's my biggest concern is the depth. If it doesn't work, everyone's going to be affected. If it does work, I think it's only going to help ETH. So it's like if you love ETH, this is a big moment, right?
Yeah. So this is interesting for me because, and I think you and I do have a bit of a different perspective on this because I'm still a little bit of a Bitcoin maxi at heart. Part of me feels like, I think in the end, like that's the base money, and I think we might be using all these different tokens for the currencies, but I think we're just going to think in terms kind of versus Satoshis instead of like versus US dollar. Now, how does this ETH thing, if things go wrong, it doesn't work? How does that play for Bitcoin? And then I guess you're thinking the rest of any other altcoins kind of take a bit of a hit from that.
Yeah, I think Bitcoin. I think the Bitcoin ETH chart will probably do a run up for Bitcoin. Drop for ETH. I think that anytime the major altcoin takes a hit, every other altcoin takes a hit as well. So I think I've been looking at the correlations. Right now, Sol is most correlated with ETH and Bitcoin, more so than any other altcoin out there. So when you start looking at like correlation matrices, you see like who could potentially have some of the bigger ones, and it is all the L1s. Like all of the L1s in that capital rotation theory are, in theory, highly correlated, like 0.84 or higher, and like statistically, that's highly correlated. So
yeah, that's really interesting because it does. Yeah, just I mean, thinking about it, yeah, if it doesn't go well, I could see. I definitely could see the Bitcoin dominance chart taking a swing in Bitcoin's favor. I don't know if it hurts the crypto market as a whole. And then, but I do think it prevents or presents an interesting thing on, is there a big rotation into the other L1s? Does this bode very well potentially for AVAX and Phantom? And then vice versa. If this goes really well, what happens to some of these layer ones?
I think that to answer that last part of your question first, I think that a successful POS merge in the long run is actually bullish for Phantom
Right.
and Avalanche because we are better POS networks. So if people come around to this idea of proof of stake, they're going to see how fundamentally flawed Ethereum is, and they will see that there are superior alternatives in that realm. If ETH were to stay proof of work with smart contracts, like that's a very strong niche, right? But now they're giving up half of that niche, and they're jumping over to like a realm where people have been making leaps and bounds of progress while they've just been trying to catch up. So it is a neat dynamic, and I am really excited for Phantom and Avalanche in years kind of future with a POS personally.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The tinfoil part of me, literally just sitting here kind of thinking like, part of me is a little bit worried about it all there's a deep set in me. I think we were talking about it with when we had all met up, but like one of my fears is that the old world gets into this before the people all get into this. Um, and that's the one fear that I do have in terms of like proof of stake. Is it to me? It's kind of like a more money, more power, digitalized. Um,
Absolutely.
so there's a slight fear in me that like this goes really well, and it's so early that essentially it wakes them up to, uh, oh, okay, it worked. We can now potentially like dictate a network. Um, if they were to like jump in with their capital, which I mean, bullish for the charts, but
You're right. And speaking of that tinfoil part, obviously I don't know if this is truth, but the theories that JP Morgan is behind Ethereum kind of lends itself that old money may already be there,
mm,
right? Like
mm,
to think that these guys um, would just sit on the sideline for a decade watching
right,
innovation is like really hard to believe. So like, yeah, BlackRock is now allowing Bitcoin to like select funds, you know, but if you were a or if you were a high net client at BlackRock, you could have gotten Bitcoin years ago. Like it's just all the plebs can get it now. Like, you know, they're BlackRock. They're not idiots. They know how to
yeah,
get Bitcoin even back then. So like
yeah,
I don't you're right. I think that more old money is definitely scared money in this day and age. I don't think they're just lobbing it at ETH like some of the degenerates are. But the moment that they get that sound all things are go, yeah, you're right, man. There could be like a mad rush of just rich people grabbing it, which in turn is actually still bullish for the smaller L1s. If everyone's locking up
right,
their things in these ETH validators, which is where it's all going to go, um, you know, there's a lot of room for people to continue to decentralize these networks. Like right now, Ethereum is 2.0 is not decentralized at all whatsoever. Like Liquidity owns 40% of ETH validator and ETH2, so
right.
it's like it's already a centralized chain, you know, which is as much as people like want to shit on proof of work, it's not centralized. Like, yeah, there was centralized for a bit in China, but that issue is taken care of, right? Like, that's
Right.
not an issue anymore. They took care of that themselves. They took care of it for us. So I hear the concerns, man. That's actually a really great point that I hadn't even thought of. But yeah, proof of stake is definitely a little touchier than just getting a bunch of machines.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and like it's one of those things where the way I mean, I kind of generally I think this is the direction we go. Like it might be a bit of a kind of a downer mindset, but I just think it I can't imagine that we find the perfect money right now. You know what I mean? Like it feels like humanity we're gonna get wrecked digitally first, and then it's gonna be like, oh, okay, uh here it is finally. Like now we found the system that works. Um, yeah, it's interesting, but so let's get away from that for a second because I want to talk about building on these other layer ones. Um, why AVAX? And then on the second part of this question is if ETH merge goes well and gas prices are what they potentially are being forecasted at, um, does that spur some more ETH building too?
Oh man, great questions. I don't know if there can be more building. I mean, obviously there can always be more building on ETH. I think there will be a resumed high level from like a bull run standpoint. Like I don't think we'll like see a lot of levers. But personally, I chose Avalanche because I had the best user experience as a trader, as a collector, all these things. I have tested north of 15 different networks, you know, just to like find where I'm happy. And, you know, I'd always go to the next chain. Uh, I continue to look and I continue to do my research and test all these L1s and L2s. And like, I just haven't found anything that's there's tons of like equally smooth chains, but
Mm,
for me to like pick up my whole shop,
yeah.
something would have to like happen, right? Um, yeah, I think they'll keep building on ETH though. I think they will. I think POS will make it more attractive for a ton of builders for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a there's a slight again. There's little slight fears in this whole how this ETH stuff plays out because we're in a whole new world. Yeah, I guess I like that mindset, and I hope uh, a lot of developers have that mindset. Um, there's a slight fear that I have of developers leaving some of these chains if ETH gas prices are really good because there's such market capitalization over there. Um, but I guess in the end, I just think that, like I guess long term, this is still beneficial for these L1s.
When I think about like builders on other chains, like I personally think about yourself, like would you ever consider leaving Phantom for ETH?
No, not really.
So it's like, at what point do like the deeply rooted communities just say, forget that noise. Like we have our roots, right? Like
Mm.
at what point do the roots outweigh like the leaves on the trees, right? Um, I love what we're building on our chains. I love that we're not building on the main chains. I think being culture setters and the tone setters of these spaces is extremely important. Uh, how we set the tone is, you see the tone on ETH, right? You know who that was set by, right? We have a very rare opportunity here to set the pace and set the tone, and that's why I'll never leave because I don't want to see Avalanche be, you know, go to the wolves, right? And there's a lot of people fighting with us, right, to keep Avalanche healthy, keep it sustainable. Like you're one of those people. You fight alongside us. Uh, that's just where I'm at. I don't know where I was going with that rant, but that's my rant.
Yeah, no, I like it. I do think that, yeah, it's almost like building from a different culture base and like building that base up. It's interesting, and I do still think because I think the world's going to be so multi-chain. Again, when you think about it, it is still also just an interesting way to kind of every kind of thing like load balancing each other. Like all these chains, like this is the way that they're. There might be more chains than we kind of expect in the end because it's kind of just a load balancing system. And somebody brought it up to me. It might have been you, but they look at the blockchain as kind of like just different companies. Different ones are going to have kind of different facets that they almost specialize in. Um, some chains might more so be focused on like the industrial world where it's microtransactions for shipping. Uh, some chains are going to kind of focus on a very like social aspect.
That is the compartmentalization of where people do things is a very, very neat concept to me. Like, yeah, you can yield farm anywhere for sure, but like, which chains are built to handle like a Ticketmaster level of NFTs, right? Like, which chains are meant to handle? You're right, like the shipping containers, like, and all of the infrastructure plans. Like, I think V Chain is one of the guys that's trying to like take over that infrastructure level blockchain, and like, you're right, not one chain can do it all. Like blockchains, like I think people kind of mystify them a little bit. Like blockchains are fucking stupid, like they're just
Right.
public records, and if you don't utilize them correctly, they'll crash and burn. So absolutely, like load bearing, like it can't be one chain. Like, the fact that running smart contracts alone, like dude, they get congested so fast. Like you see it in a bull run. You know when the bull run's here because ETH gas fees immediately go back up to $100. Like right now they're $2. Like you just know like it's not sustainable.
Yeah, no, I think this is to me, I do kind of think that's the way things are trending, and like part of it's just like realizing the slow development and stuff, that things take time, and that these chains, there's some big adjustments that get made throughout the development. Phantom's got a massive adjustment coming with moving to FVM, which is the Phantom virtual machine. Um, yeah, I guess similar to an ETH merge, like it's kind of a massive event coming up for Phantom eventually. But you just, I guess it's like cluing into that idea that these things are going to kind of continue to develop. And to think that, like, yeah, you know,
As they should, as they should, right? Like Bitcoin Cash hasn't updated since the fork, right? And it's like, actually, I don't know if that's true, but it's like, but like there hasn't been like a notable event for Bitcoin Cash. Like if they forked and that was it, and then Ethereum Classic forked and that was it. So
right.
having these chains with active builders and active teams and literal companies behind them, like the guys that are, continuing to push the Phantom virtual machine. I'm sorry, I don't know who runs Phantom, but like, and Eva Labs and all of these, and like even the Ethereum Foundation, like, yeah, Satoshi's great. It's anonymous, but he's gone, right? That, there's now core inclusion people, I guess, but it's awesome that people are pushing the envelope, especially off of Ethereum, because the Phantom virtual machine could lend itself to a specific type of corporation in the future that wants what they're producing, right? Like the Algorand virtual machine is very appealing to foundations that are like charity developer and like the non, what do you call that, nonprofit.
Yeah.
So like, you're seeing a lot of like customization for what they're going after, which is tailored right to your point of offloading to other chains. And I think that's a wonderful philosophy to have. And if that shapes up well, we're all going to do well. And that's the WAGMI mentality, man.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. Okay, let's transition a little bit into the NFTs. You're kind of a big mix in terms of a DeFi and NFT guy. You seem to have a pretty equal love for both. Let's talk about your journey into NFTs. What got you? What was your first NFT? What kind of got you into this idea? And then give me a little bit of your story in how you became a builder in this NFT space.
So my first instance with NFTs was actually on Ethereum. I once upon a time made custom clothing for like individuals, like one of one jeans that were patchwork, and they would get pretty pricey. So I put out a coupon for these jeans, or I was going to, as an NFT, have it be redeemable and burnable. This was like, I don't know, a couple years ago. And it just never took off. Like I didn't sell a single one because my market wasn't interested in NFTs. They were only interested in jeans, which is fine, and that kind of spurred me down this utility rabbit hole. So when I got into like the main NFT scene and I just saw profile pictures, I was like, yeah, fuck this. I was like, this is a scam. I thought all NFTs were scams for the longest time. And then when they started coming, and I think it coincided with avalanches, there was like this real drive for utility. And it was like, well, what can the NFT do for you? Like, what can the NFT not just sit and look like a pretty picture? And that's what started me on my building route, was this merge of like tokenomics, which comes from the DeFi side, into the NFT realm. So I got brought on to Ryu, which is my lovely profile picture, by a couple guys, and they were looking for a tokenomics writer for this project. So I hopped on board and ended up as one thing led to another, and I ended up as the project manager as well.
Yeah, I want to stop on this just for a second, because I think it's huge for anybody in this space. Like, immerse yourself, learn this stuff. Something as simple as like tokenomics, not as simple as, but like, that one aspect of tokenomics where you could be, every day diving into different protocols, learning the tokenomics, seeing how that stuff's kind of played out. All of a sudden, you become one of the more knowledgeable people in tokenomics, and now you're hired by an NFT company to run their tokenomics.
It's very true. So my day job has been for the longest time like crypto research and just putting out reports for corporations that the corporations that I've worked for that have needed their reports on Web3 and where to invest and where to tell people to invest. So I was literally just embedded in protocols and white papers all the time. And honestly, like that's just the way to do it. Like if there's something that interests you, just go out and learn as much as you can about it. Like it's such an early field that you can corner a niche and become an expert. Like, it is still that early. And that's honestly what my goal was with tokenomics, is just to like learn as much as I can and see all these different systems and how they interact. And one of my biggest biggest things that I love doing is finding protocols where things almost worked, right? Where it's like
Mm.
that one piece of would be so cool if it wasn't there, right? Like for me, the protocol that I always come back to is Hex. Where I'm like, oh, it's a really interesting protocol, but the founder's a scumbag. Know? And I don't trust this like whatever they call it, the wallet like that holds everything. I don't trust that. But if that wasn't there, the inflationary protocol of paying two stakers isn't a bad idea. Like it is like an interest bearing CD. It's just, the rest of it I don't like. So being able to pick out the pieces from protocols that I like the time lock staking, like the things that are, like the YTOT systems in treasuries, like there are good pieces to these protocols that can be reutilized in the future if you just learn about it, right? You don't need to start from scratch, I guess.
Yeah, no, I love it. Okay, this is interesting. So let's talk Ryu a little bit.
For sure.
So this is, and that was one of the big things when we first made our move over to Avalanche. Taking a look at other Avalanche NFT projects, a lot of DeFi involved with the NFTs.
Absolutely. It's certainly the one of the first places I've seen tokens and NFTs married as much as they are.
So I want to get your thoughts on let's actually talk about this whole new financial NFTs stuff for a second. Have you been seeing these?
Yeah. So one great example of that would be the Geode Finance one. Uh, if you have it in your wallet, JoePegs will tell you you have like 9 trillion NFTs because they count every like Terra AVAX as like an individual NFT, which is kind of funny. I think the financial NFTs are the unfortunately boring but future of NFTs, right? Where, yes, you can apply an image to this 721, but there's a lot of other things that this contract is capable of. So like, sure, you can put an image on it, but you can also like keep track of, staked assets that, you're getting rewarded for, and then it actually saves on gas in the future. So like, it's a really interesting concept when you're thinking about like multi-million-dollar NFTs that are actually not JPEGs, but are like bound assets. Like that's a security measure as well. So that it's personally the part of NFTs that I'm most excited for because it feels like we're taking the steps away from monkey pictures and we're taking the steps towards like usable products.
Yeah, no, it's been interesting because I've been seeing a lot of originally the financial NFTs were just that financial NFTs. There was like no even JPEG attached to it. It was just a black screen with white writing on it. Now I've been starting to see some more almost like upgradable NFTs where the NFT itself, yeah, like you said, is earning some kind of token or a percentage, and it comes with some art, which that stuff gets me real interested in.
Would you be referring to something like Chicken's Farmland in this case, where they are like an LP is embedded into the NFT, but there's also that cool like upgradability to the JPEG itself?
Right. Yeah. See, gonna get real interesting. But at the same time, we're gonna go through a war with the SEC on this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. So my fun fact, my current job is cryptocurrency compliance. So I deal a lot with regulators on a day-to-day basis. And everything that we're selling right now in the 721 is more or less a security. If it emits a token, it's a double security. I think that's really interesting. I'm happy to provide evidence if people want to DM me afterwards, like as to why all this stuff's security. But like it is, unless it's like pure art, and even in that case, you might still be screwed. The SEC
Right.
sucks. Does that? This is just a random question. Does that concern you at all? The SEC, like, how do people view it? Not in America.
So for me, I'm tinfoil. Like I have very much of the understanding that like there's literally going to be a cultural war that happens at some point on like we're going to decide between uh digital Fed dollar and decentralized crypto. Like that war is going to come. So there's going to be a bunch of these little wars that happen up to that stage. Stuff like what's going on with Tornado Cash right now. That was bound to happen. I think there's going to be all these little steps, but I think it's important for us as a culture to continue to stand up for this decentralized culture. It's something that I'm glad this actually came up, because it's something that I was a little bit upset with, seeing the amount of people almost cheering on the whole Tornado Cash situation. And I understand we don't want scammers being able to do what they can do, but at the same time, going forward, there's so many real reasons why you would actually want that privacy.
Yeah, it's also like it's an immutable smart contract, you know, like you can't take it down even if you wanted to. You can DDoS attack the servers. You can do whatever you want. You can make it hard for people to interact with it, but at the end of the day, like uh, I saw a chat come through that was like, well, what happens if like 7 Tornado Cash forks spin up tomorrow? Like the SEC is not going to be able, and Congress is not going to be able to respond
Yeah.
in any manner. So it's almost like, how much cat and mouse do they want to play, right? I mean, like, we can spin up new code all day if you know how. It's not that hard. I mean, sure, you just whatever forks. Sure, they could spin one up easy. I'm curious to see how regulatory landscapes affect global decentralized system code. Like, to me, those don't add up, right? And that is a huge culture war. I think it's funny that people are just sending 0.1 ETH to Jimmy Fallon through Tornado Cash. Like, that made my day, because now he's going to have to, get flagged.
Well, so this is the like little things that, yeah, you can obviously kind of see these little things are going to be coming. It's going to be this war back and forth, and I guess that's a good point. Is like it does push them to the level of like, well, okay, how much do we want to push? Because if we create one problem for this community, well, it ends up just turning into 100 problems for us. I guess in terms of for myself, there's an interesting culture with crypto, because, and I don't know if it's like bag protection, but to me, it's like the same argument against Tornado Cash is like the same people that really virtue signal against Bitcoin and the energy usage. They kind of like almost like tap into the argument that like Bitcoin's boiling the oceans.
I haven't heard these arguments in so long, man. I almost have to laugh at them, because I'm like, when you're in the space so long, you're like, do people actually still believe this shit? Like, they do.
It's weird, because like because we're on these other layer one networks that and are on proof of stake networks, like I've seen people within the community, have this sentiment of like, oh, we're more energy efficient, so like we're a better chain, like we're a super green chain. This is good for climate. Like, not kind of, it very much feels like a virtue signaling.
I hear it. I think we are a bit guilty on AVAX of promoting the energy efficiency of it. I like, it's not, you're right, like, because they're not wrong. Is it more energy efficient? Sure. But
Right.
it's not that the others are, yes, they're inefficient, but they're not dangerous, right?
Right.
I think that's the difference. Is they're inefficient, they're not like causing the world to die any faster than the oil companies already are making it, right? Like, it's not crypto.
Right.
You can blame crypto, but it's not.
Yeah, I think yeah, that's more so what it is. And I guess it's the aspect of like making the other ones seem dangerous, because yeah, like that the whole energy efficient thing, like with a lot of these layer ones, and Phantom is just as guilty. And it's like, well, at the same time, when you see El Salvador tap a volcano, and we've never done that ever, just started using volcanic energy, it's like, well, that's seems pretty, energy efficient.
Right. Yeah, that is pretty energy efficient. It's also like the source. I don't think people. Also, like, dude, we all saw in the pandemic, people became doctors overnight. Like immediately, everyone
Right.
was a virologist, and
Right.
now everyone's a global climate scientist. Like I don't listen to the general public anyway because they don't know shit.
Right.
You can't just like turn a blind eye to it. I guess as much as I try, but it's all the same people that are automatically like also the people that are like blockchain experts now that call proof of stake a consensus mechanism. It's like, do you not hear how stupid you sound? Like proof of stake
Mhm.
isn't a consensus mechanism. Like let's go down to the basics of it. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. There's just a whole lot of misunderstanding with this space, and it comes from the fact that people think we're literally working with supercomputers. Like there's misconceptions on every level, especially when you start interacting with like the general public, and it just makes it even harder.
Well, this seems like a beautiful segue. Minor, we're about to go down the rabbit hole. Uh, Speaking of, topics where the public doesn't really have any idea on what's actually kind of going on, uh, let's talk about the pyramids. Who built the pyramids, sir? Now, I've gotten a few theories dropped on this show. Um, we've gotten aliens. We've gotten more advanced human society at one point in time. We've gotten just a society of faith that built these things out of faith. We've got like a slave class theory. Where do you sit on the pyramid building?
Oh man, my so I think my rabbi would want me to say that it was slave labor. However, I'm pretty sure that it was something to do with extraterrestrials. I wouldn't say I believe that it's like energy beacons of sorts. Like I wouldn't go that far. Like,
Okay.
but the idea that those like the script. I come back to the scriptures of the pyramids. Those shits are so crazy, and like people didn't just write stories in brick for nothing back then. Like it
Mm.
wasn't just for fun. Like they were documenting history. So why would it immediately become folklore when someone that we've never like an object we've never seen before is now in these hieroglyphs? Like when I come back to those rabbit holes, I have a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, I'm I'm torn. So I'm what's funny is part of my belief does sit in the extraterrestrials. Uh, I am of the belief that we were more advanced at one point in time. And this does kind of almost tie into some scriptures where I think there might have been an aspect of, fallen gods that walked amongst man at one point, and those could very well be some form of like an extraterrestrial. You go back to like the Sumerian stories of the Anunnaki, this and that. I do think it was an aspect of we were more advanced at one point. We went through a global cataclysm. Um, Again, that feels like that story was told in a lot of scriptures. Uh, yeah, I think that's kind of where I sit. A little bit of a mix of the ET with we were more advanced. I'm not sitting on the slave thing because none of it makes sense to me. It would make way too many people. You got to feed them. There's not enough evidence of that kind of agriculture going on
For
to be
sure.
able to do that. So that's
For
where I'm
sure.
sitting with that.
No, I think that's a very good point. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fucking people to feed, and those are some pretty big blocks. Yeah, I could totally see. I could totally see that. God's blocks.
Let's stay with these hieroglyphs that we mentioned. Because my next question is your favorite mythological god. Now, I want two answers here. I want one from an artistic perspective. The second is from a story lore perspective. So my answers here are I really like I think the story of Shiva is really interesting. The idea of like the goddess of creation, goddess of destruction, that kind of power I think is crazy. Uh, and then I love the art of Anubis, the Egyptian dog looking god.
Interesting. Okay, okay. So, I this is not hieroglyphic, but I think. Wait, I'm sorry. What were the two questions? It was
So
God.
you're yeah, God in terms of art And then your favorite mythological god in terms of the lore, the story of it.
I think actually my favorite is the same for both. I think Hades takes the crown. So I think
Oh.
the idea that Hades is not actually a bad guy, but is like my favorite version of the story is that he's just misunderstood and that death isn't a bad thing, but it's just what comes next. And no one wants to face him because no one wants to know what comes next. But at the same time, like it can be peaceful. Like the original story of Hades is that like you go through the Sea of Reeds, you know, and it's supposed to be a very calming experience after in the afterlife. Like it's not torment all the time. So and the art, I would say either the art around Hades or the art around Dionysus are both like very interesting. Um, just from the sense that it's been, you know, one's like this misunderstood god of death and one's like this god of beauty that's also, I think, overly misunderstood in the positive. Like I think there's a nice balance there in the art side as well.
Yeah, this is interesting because I guess Hades is represented in uh the Little Mermaid, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. I was on the my last AMA. We got on the topic of the MCU universe and the way they portray gods because like I mean they have Thor and Loki like they have the names of a bunch of these gods and then uh we got on the topic of I don't know how much you know the MCU universe, but I guess they're at the stage of like the Eternals now, which are like the fucking super crazy big gods. And I watched a video where it talked about the theory that Thanos was actually trying to like kind of save humanity by doing the snap because the Eternal, I guess, was absorbing life from humanity to almost like a bat, like Godzilla, and then all of a sudden it's supposed to awake and he would destroy the Earth, and that's why Thanos wanted to snap to eliminate half the life force, so that way the Eternals could no longer get the energy to awake. And I was like, man, that shit is so deep.
Interesting because oh man, I love the MCU, big nerd about it.
Oh yeah.
If you did you by chance see the newest Thor?
No, so I'm not gonna lie, I'm a few movies behind, but I need to catch up because I very much watch things with a different eye, so I like to try to catch the stories behind things.
You will love the new Thor if you love gods. That's all I'm gonna say.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
It's good shit, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
watch this then. All right, well, staying on topics of gods. Interesting you mentioned almost like a Roman Greek one. What time frame? If you could time travel, what time frame are you going to?
am I allowed to go forward?
You can go forward, yep.
I'm probably gonna jump just to like 2050. No, 2000, the year 2500. Like I want to see where we're at in the 500 years. You know, I want to see if people are still talking about flying cars. Like I don't think we're
Right.
gonna have. Personally, I'd love to go to the future. There is nothing in the past that I need to see at all. Like I would, unless we go like way back. But like human wise, like the humans just yeah, bring in the end of the pandemic. 2,500 spot on.
I like it. I like it. All right, you know, I think I know the answer to these questions. Aliens. Want to know if they're real. And then the second part of this question is where are you at in your potential alien belief? Have they been here? Um, are they interdimensional things? Are they just out there somewhere and they haven't interacted with us yet? Where are you at with the aliens?
I think that they're out there. I think that we probably have made contact over the years in recent years, but I don't think that every alien species out there is like intelligent necessarily.
Yep.
Like there could just be life out there that also is stuck on their planet. Like the amount of interplanet moving alien species is probably low for sure. I don't think it's like billions. Um, Because if we haven't done it and we're pretty smart, I think it's just like I don't know. And how many of those aliens look exactly like us, right? Like who says they have to look super crazy and super weird? Like if life can only form in like what those bands of life, right, near the planet, but not too far from the sun. So it's like if they're all setting up these same parameters, they may not look too different. I don't know. That's also my theory is that they don't have to be like green Martian looking things. They could maybe look like us.
Well, I like it. I'm I'm sitting in the belief of all the above, to be honest. I think they've been here. I've got an interesting story. So, was dating this girl, very, very wealthy family. Um, they have this family friend. His name is Fred. Fred is this older gentleman, uh, very kept to himself. Fred is some kind of government agent, and Fred would come over every Wednesday for dinner, and he had some kind of work in the area. Uh, they live in a really isolated, ritzy area. So he would come over, and I kept bugging my girlfriend, like, "Well, what have you gotten out of this guy?" Like, apparently he had been to Area 51.
No
He'd
way.
Yeah, he'd done a bunch of crazy shit. Like, really high level guy, and, like, to the point of, like, being a weirdo, like, where he's like we went for dinner once. I got to meet this guy a couple times, but we went for dinner once, and we're all around the table. Girlfriend's dad is like, "All right, how's everybody's day? Let's start with you." We start going around the table. It gets to him, and he's literally just like, "I'm sorry, I can't. I actually can't say anything about what went on today." And it's like, what? Like, so, and for them, there was nothing. Like, that was like a normal answer uh, to any of them. So I was like, okay, this is weird. So I was asking them like, "Oh, what did you get out of this guy?" And he's also a Knight of Templar, which is
Oh,
like top line Masons. Uh, he said for the Knights of Templar, uh, what one of the things that they protect is a vial of Mary's blood, and I guess part of the idea is like they don't want to release it to the church, and they don't want the church to have hold of it, and then you also don't want to release the science and have science hold on to it. So it's kind of like they just kind of protect it to let the stories continue to be the stories.
that's bizarre. I didn't
Uh,
know that.
Yeah. On the other part of it, he talked about Roswell, and he said that they'd found something, um, and that a lot of today's technology has been back engineered off stuff they've found, and that includes other archaeological digs.
No, that's see like imagine just finding tech and having that be, and then just like working backwards. Like, oh, this is how that wire. Oh, that's why that wire goes there. That would
Well, and it's weird because, like, I mean, I'm a big podcast guy, and I was really intrigued by the whole Bob Lazar thing. And I'm very much of the I sit in the skeptics. Like, I know in the conspiracy world, there's a lot of shitty information too. So I'm very skeptical about everything I see and read. Um, but the way he talks about trying to back engineer this stuff, and just like I was just not having the understanding of a lot of this stuff.
I hope he's right. I hope it's true. I hope there was something in Roswell, man. I don't know enough about the Roswell story to
I know it's also interesting. This shit just amuses the hell out of me.
I gotta do more. Now you're gonna make me go look up Roswell after this.
Okay, I want some gut reactions.
I got you.
What is your gut reaction when I say the word transhumanism?
My mind kind of goes blank because it's a really long word and I don't know what it means.
Uh,
Transhumanism? Yeah.
Transhumanism.
What is that definition, man? I have no idea.
So that is kind of the merging of man and machine.
Interesting. I'm here for it. I'm fully here for it. I think it's awesome. I think there's so many uh, limitations in this human form that machines can really kind of help, and also like more so, I think people with disabilities. I think that's what really comes into play. So we see a lot of like those dogs in double wheelchairs so they can keep walking. Like I think there are tons of good things for it, but I don't think the average person needs to start decking out their body in tech, right? Like there's if you have four working limbs, like don't go putting metal beams
Now, let's stay on this topic. You- Where you at with like Elon's, the whole like importing consciousness kind of stuff?
Dude, if people want to start putting chips in their brain, be my guest. I am not doing that.
Right.
Not no shot. Also, like if life saving medicine comes out that you can live for hundreds and hundreds of years, I ain't taking it. Like I don't want it. I don't want to be on this earth for 100 years. It's the same concept for me. Where it's like I like what I have. I'm grateful for what I have, and I don't really need any more. Like let me just rock with what I got. I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting because when I think of transhumanism, like I very much go to the stage of like that that exact stuff. Like we've now used AI to look through everything that Miner has ever done online or said online, and the AI basically can mimic you. Then you have the idea of whatever this importing consciousness. Now you've got some droid that basically is Miner. Um, where it gets weird for me is figuring out, is that a is that Miner, or like is that not Miner? Like is there something more to this all that makes Miner Miner?
Mm,
And this
I
kind of gets to the religious, like spiritual aspect, right?
For sure, yeah. Can you recreate a soul, right? Can you code a soul? I don't believe so. I think they're all just data libraries. And at the end of the day, I think humans are just data libraries too. Because if
Mm.
I'm not exposed to it, I won't know it, and I never
Mm.
will know it because I wasn't exposed to it. So it's like, but if an AI library is not exposed to something, it probably won't learn about it. It's like the same kind of philosophy because neural networks are neural networks, whether they're in a brain or a computer, right? So like, no, I mean, if there's a minor bot out there that looks at all my tweets and starts tweeting like me, like it ain't gonna have my edge. It's not gonna get pissed off like I do randomly. Like there's still pieces that make me me, and I think
Right.
that emotional side of it is really what it comes back to for me. It's like you can be as spiritual as you want, but like you can't fake emotion. Maybe you can if you're a psychopath, but I can't fake emotion, right? Like like I feel it, I live it, I express it. That's like, and they can get as cold, but machines are cold, right? That's what I like.
Yeah, this is. I find this interesting because now I'm also thinking about like the idea of like clones, because you get. I mean, when was Dolly the sheep? In the '90s, early '90s. I
Mhm.
could be wrong on that. Maybe even earlier than that. Imagine that there's been some underground labs that have been doing some stuff since. I'm very much of the belief that we've been playing around with cloning humans for quite a while now. Um, yeah, I think that gets really interesting too when you think of importing a consciousness into a clone who is now supposed to be like hypothetically to science, like genetically the same as you. So now, like hypothetically speaking, the clone should have any genetic memories that you might have got passed down.
Hmm. So like in theory, so if there's a clone of me, let's say, in some Nevada basement, that if it were to get out, there would be two, in theory, two of the same people running around, right? Like, this is
In
that.
theory, like,
Hmm.
but then I guess that's now you get into nature versus nurture for a second, because now you're right. Like, I think there'd be a certain genetic memories passed, but then you have that clone has to learn what you've learned.
Right, right. Very true. It would be a very big newborn, right? You would have.
Yeah, yeah. Is that it? I wonder if that's how it works. If they just come out big ass babies.
I, I mean, like, it'd be pretty inefficient if they were like cloning humans and we had to wait 40 years for it to catch up. Like catch up to your current age. That would be
Well, so these are the little things that like I like. It makes me think. Like I like to when I again when I watch Hollywood, and this is me, having broadcasting college and whatnot. But it's just like everything in movies and shit is so meticulously planned out. Like a cup on a table is put there for a well fucking reason. Um, and yeah, I think about the way movies kind of portray this stuff. Um, I think Keanu Reeves, like in The Matrix. The Matrix has always been a really interesting movie to me. Uh, and then John Wick. I'm a big fan of John Wick, and know for a fact that that kind of shit exists, where you have these like secret societies that deal with different forms of money and the assassins and blah blah blah. But then he's got this movie about human cloning. I forget it's called Replicas, and in this movie, it's a 17-day process in their little incubation tanks.
Yeah, that would be much quicker than 40 years. So fuck out of here. I don't want a 17-day clone. That scares the shit out of me. They could just
Right?
cash and put that into business. You have a new miner next to me now. 2 weeks. Holy shit.
Terrifying stuff. And let's stay on gut reactions here. That drone could end up out in the metaverse. Now, I need your gut reaction when I say metaverse.
Fucking stupid. Absolutely stupid. You want to talk about the dumbest word, the dumbest buzzword of the year? Metaverse by far. Like, I think there are very few use cases for it. Very, 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 very few. And social is probably not going to be one of them because I get nauseous in that shit. I'm in my 20s and I get nauseous in VR headsets. Like, you're going to put 40 and 50-year-olds in that thing? No way. No way. I don't know. Sorry, big gut reaction there.
I love it. See, for me, this is interesting because I got two little brothers. I have this issue with like I can't be in the VR headset very long. Um, they don't have that issue. I don't know if it's like just the come up on screens at all times, but they don't have that issue with like I swear to God they could be in fucking that thing for hours. Hours. Um, and it is so native to them now. Like it is the Oculus in my household has become the native video game in the household.
Wow.
Uh, and
Wow.
for me, that's interesting when I think about, that is the next generation that's kind of going to be moving forward. And then, as the technology progresses in these games and graphics and all this stuff, all of a sudden when you got that some chest band and you're wearing gloves and now you got the feel of in these games. This part of the metaverse shit scares the hell out of me because I think as the tech progresses, it's only going to get more and more immersive, and it kind of drawing us into that world.
I think so. I think one of the applications I actually heard of a successful metaverse, quote unquote, was a factory line where they basically spun up this metaverse, but like tied to the real factory line. It would pick out the bugs. So if something were to happen on that factory line and there would be a stoppage, it would go in the Oculus, walk down the rows, and see exactly what's going on. So you didn't have to be at the factory to fix it. You could just tell someone, "Hey, this is how you fix it." So like there are totally applications where it can work. But and then the immersive part is very helpful. But like you're not going to immerse me, that's for sure.
I wonder how much social studies will happen. You got that whole metaverse or the factory thing got me thinking about like how many social studies will happen through a metaverse where it's like you can almost build models through putting people in a world. Like there's the real concept. I mean, there's a concept of I forget what it's called. When there's too many people in a location. Like there's a certain number that you hit that once you've reached that number and you have more than that people, like all of a sudden there's division starts and you lose kind of the inner commonality. I wonder if that kind of stuff gets studied through metaverses, where it's like more almost like social experiments.
Interesting. It's so one of my backgrounds is in psychological research, like I was going to do, like I said, medical school. So the idea of spinning up like psychological studies with this metaverse also allows a bigger sample size because now they don't have to be in person. They can just tap into your study with the VR headset.
Right.
So that's really interesting. There's definitely a lot of room to study social interactions, human interactions, psychology, all through this metaverse, which is honestly not something I thought about before right now. So thanks for opening my eye to that, man.
You're welcome, Minor. All right, a couple more questions for you. Would you consider yourself a hunter or a gatherer?
I like to shoot shit, so I'm definitely a hunter.
I like it. I like it. Okay, you can say everything that's on your mind, or you never speak again. What's the decision here?
I already do the first one, so definitely the first
Love
one.
love it. I'm much more of a fan of the no filter factor. All right, how about you're going to jail? What's the crime that Minor committed?
Definitely arson.
Arson.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a new answer. I haven't got that one yet. I like that.
Yeah, I
What
love.
are you setting fire to?
Dude, I'll set a fire to just about anything. You find me
All
the
right.
biggest in the world. That's what I would have fun with. I don't need to hurt anyone, but just like setting shit on fire is fun.
Love it. Oh fuck, I got a couple more here. Pick a superpower. What is your superpower?
Oh, I'm a sucker for invisibility. I think that's so
That's
cool.
a good one. That's a good one. Oh, that's a
Where
good
are
answer.
you eating? I need to hear that.
Oh yeah, you see, you got me with that one a little bit. I kind of go back to like I like teleportation, to be honest. I think part of me is I'm not a traveled man, and I'd like to be. So for me, teleportation is kind of like the dream. Just be able to pop out places. Okay, I've seen it.
Okay, that's a fun one. I could get behind that.
I was talking to somebody. I forget who I'd interviewed, but we had a great conversation on, and it almost like was like the morals behind teleportation. A person choosing teleportation versus the person choosing flying, and it was like the person choosing teleportation. It's like a rush. Like, oh, I just want to get there fast. Where it's like the flying is, somebody who just enjoys the journey.
Oh, I love that. Oh, because that's funny. Because when you said teleportation, I was like, I wonder why you didn't pick flying. So that's
Right?
really right. Interesting. I like
It
that
is.
more.
It is. No, I love it. All right, if everything in the world was free, what would you have the most of?
Probably California rolls. I just love sushi, and it's expensive.
I dig it, dude. Oh man, I'll never forget like the high school days. Like one of my buddies played football with, big, massive man, got to be 6'6", 280, 260. Uh, dude, we used to go to this all-you-can-eat buffet, sushi buffet. The fucking look on the chef's faces when he would walk in. Oh my god. And like this guy was on a mission. Like he made it a thing to I'm not drinking any water because that's gonna fuck up, that's gonna inflate the rice and that messes with the mojo. Um I can legitimately say that this was the motion for him eating sushi. So the order gets ridiculous. You have that little sheet that you just kind of check stuff off. The whole fucking table shows up. 4 people bring out this whole mash of stuff for 2 guys. He just sits there. It's grab, dunk, mm, mm, mm. He fills a whole like a soup bowl of soy sauce, and it's just nonstop. And he's just shoving them down his fucking throat. It's blows me away. The look on the chefs just stand there and watch. They're like, "What the fuck is this guy doing?"
Oh, I love that. You know what? Yeah, all you can eat sushi. That's the next move, man.
No, that's a good one. Minor, love the conversation, dude. Again, really appreciate everything you're doing in the space. I'm excited for your Docs Day. It was awesome getting to meet you and Naldo. But I'm excited for everybody else to kind of get to know you a little bit more.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on and letting people start to get to know me. That docs will probably happen before the end of the year. If I'm dropping a little bit of alpha, I we need to get that YouTube rolling. We need more content, so it's time someone else helps out.
So Minor, I'm ready for the Docs, dude. When you want to start a YouTube show, let's go.
All right. Hey, there's no one else I want to do it with, so it sounds good, man.
Bango. Yeah, ladies and gents, thanks so much for watching. I will be downloading this into audio only format and putting it up to Spotify. So I'll be able to get you the link for that as well. But again, yeah, Miner, thanks again so much. Everybody, make sure you check out Miner's Twitter. What are you at Miner _?
Yes, sir. That's me. Thank you for having me on today, Tim. This was a lot of fun. Always a pleasure chatting with you, man.
Yeah, dude, really appreciate it. Looking forward to meeting again. This time it'll be I want the tour of Manhattan.
Hey, as soon as you get here, I got you for sure.
Right on, brother. All right, man. Appreciate it. Thanks so much, guys.